Hello everyone, welcome to Accounting Theory 12. In this video, we continue with chapter 13. So this is the second part of our chapter 13 video. In this video, I will basically talk about some multiple choice in the handout and then in the more multiple choice that package. Before we go to our questions, let's have a quick review of chapter 13. So we said chapter 13 basically talking about one word, and the word is pricing, right? Basically, how do we get long-term price for our product? So we said before we think about the detail, we have to know what decides our price. So basically, it's the demand curve and then the supply curve. You know this from your other classes, so I'm not going to really talk too much. And then we said three factors will affect our supply and then demand. The first factor is the computation. First factor based on your textbook, I think, is customer. And then second one is the computation. And then the last one we said is the cost, right? So we said for the customer, it will affect the demand. More customer means higher demand. For the cost, it will affect the supply. Higher cost will have less supply. And then we said for computation, it will affect both, mixed effect. And then we also said the factor also depends on the market competition level. So if it's really competitive, then the cost will be the main one. Because as you know that, right? So you want to sell the pen, everybody sells the same. You cannot set the selling price. All you can do is control your cost. On the other side, if there is no competition, all you care is the customer demand, right? So we said less competition, think about customers' demands requirement more. And then we also said, hey, since this is a long term, so our general rule is we have to think about the full costs plus the profit. And then later you already knew that the profit also is called as markup, or we call it as plus, right? Since we need to have full cost, we talk about the full purposes on the cost allocation. And then this is the main difference of chapter 13 and chapter 11. Chapter 11 talk about short term, we only think about relevant cost. Chapter 13 talking about long term, we think about full cost with the cost allocation. So after all this background, we talk about there are two main methods. First one is market-based. We said those are for the competitive market. You cannot really decide your market. You cannot really decide the selling price. Market already has decided for you. All you can do is try to control your cost. So there are 4 steps. You need to get your product. You need to find out the customer needs. Then you need to find out the target cost. If your current cost is above your target cost, we have to do value engineering, right? So we talk about value engineering. And then we said the main thing for value engineering is we have to separate value added and then non-value added. We have to find out what's the cost incurrence and then what is the locked in cost. So those are the different concepts. We said the meaning of market-based approach is market will tell you the selling price and you have your required profit or return. Then you have to derive to get your target cost. Let's say your selling price is $10 and then you want to get $2 for each. That gives you target cost has to be $8. So if your current cost is more than $8, you have to perform value engineering. This is very common. Think about this. Now everybody they sell similar things. All the stores they also offer called the price match, right? So if currently you are selling at 10, so let's say currently, or we say last year, 2018, that was you said like your selling price was 10, and then so you could sell 10 units. And each one you want to have the profit. Okay, so this is each one you want to have $2 as the profit. So your total profit will be $20, right? Your total will be $20. That was last year. But now, in this year, your competitors, they already said, oh, they are selling, I'll just make up a number like $8 each. So now you have to also price match them. You can also sell at $8 each, but you want to have the total profit to be the same. You still want to get $20 for total, but now because you sell at a cheaper price, you can sell 10% more, which gives you 11 units. So each one, the profit will be around 1.82. I think that's the number. So your selling price now is $8, and then your new profit for each one is 1.82. So your new target cost will be $6.18 each. Let's say if your last year was $8, then you have to do value engineering to decrease each one to $6.18 to meet the new selling price, and then also to have the total profits. So that's kind of the main thing for this calculation. It's a dynamic. We said whatever you did last year maybe doesn't work this year, so you will have the new selling price. Then your each one, the profit can be the same or can be lower because you have more units. So then how do you get your new costs? And then we also talk about the second one called the cost plus approach, right? So we said basically you have the costs, you have your required markup, we call it the markup, profit, or plus. So that will be your selling price. We said if the cost is 100, markup is 20, selling price will be 120. So we said how do you get the markup? This is based on your thing called investment return. So you invested 100,000, and then you want to get return 10%. This is your requirement return for your investment. Then your total return has to be 10,000, right? Let's say currently you have 500 units. So that tells you for each one, you have to get the required return as $20. That being said, this 10% is your investment return. We get this based on the stockholder, the shareholders requirement. So our total investment in this chapter, if the question doesn't tell you, then it is your total assets. Think about this. When you have money, you invest. What do you get? You usually you get the bank loan. You invest in some company. You either buy long-term equipment, right? You have money, you will buy new machine, you will buy the new equipment, or you buy inventory. You have kind of cash. So that is your investment. Total assets is our investment. And then so some possible questions is they tell you your total return. Total investment, they tell you the return rate. You need to get the total return, right, as the dollar amount. Or they tell you how many units, then you should be able to get your each one's required return. So once you have the cost, you have the required return, you will get your selling price. And then your markup percentage, we said the markup percentage is your markup divided by your cost. So gives you 20 divided by 100 gives you 20%. So if it also said cost is 100, markup is 20%, then you should use 100 times your 20% to get your $20 for your each one's markup dollar amount. Or they tells you said, oh, selling price is 120, markup let's say is $20. What is the cost? Then you should be able to get a cost is 120 minus $20 gives you $100. So that is kind of the calculation in the cost plus approach. And then the second thing is we said, ideally, you can have a different markup. You can have a different cost base, right? We can use a full cost as a cost base. You can use a variable cost as cost base. You can use manufacturing as a cost base, or you can use whatever. So if the base is big, then to reach the certain amount of the selling price, you just need to have a small part as the markup. If the base is small, then you have to mark up high to get a similar selling price. So if the base is 100, your markup just needs to be $20 to get 120. If the base is 60, then you have to mark up by 60 to get 120. In the reality, most managers, they use the full cost as a cost base because it's easy to understand. It reflects your full cost, and then it's kind of more stable in the long term. So those are the things in the cost plus approach. I think I talked too much, so let's just do some quick problem. Chapter 13 is not really hard. I posted my more practice, my notes there. So I said some are the conceptual, some are the calculation. You know, I marked some questions are better ones. I think at least you kind of try those things. And then I also kind of, this is the markup percentage, the markup approach, the basic formula you should be able to know. So do some questions together. Which statement is the 3 factors? We said customer influence price because the affect the demand, right? They ask which is wrong. Cost will affect the supply. So this is wrong. I also posted my handout the solution with the textbook page to the Blackboard. Which one is not the purpose? I'm not really going to read. You should know A, B, C, they are the purpose, and D is not the purpose. Which is true of value engineering. We said the main thing is everybody has to be involved, right? So it's a systematic evaluation of all aspects. It's not just the manufacturing department. It's not just one department. The first step we said to do the target costing is that you have to have a product that will meet customers' requirement. So you want to have a product first. And then this one, I'm not going to really do the detail, but it asks you about long term. So we have to use the full cost and then plus the profit. So you have the variable cost, you have the fixed cost total, then you allocate there. I believe each one is $5, so the full cost has to be variable plus allocate the fixed for each, gives you 25 plus your 5. And then you have to have a markup, right? So 30 times 25%. So that gives you 37.5. I believe this is the number. But if the question said, what is the short-term price, one-time special order, then you just look at the variable costs because that's the relevant cost in the short term. Okay, so next one, question 6 said, what is the target cost? When you have this so many units, so what I'm trying to say is that you have a selling price is 240, and then you have a required profit 20%, which gives you $48. So you have a required cost 240 minus 48. So this is the each one, but you have to time your total units. So that should give you the total target cost. Question 7 and question 8, they are very similar. So I'll just do one. I can do two also. So basically, your selling price currently is 380, and then the cost is 290. So that's your selling price. That's your cost. It gives you profit for each one is $90 each, I believe. So now someone said, hey, you have competitors, they are selling at 320. So you have to also change to 320. And then you are currently selling 120,000 units. So that gives you a total unit, the total profit has to be this much. But you want to maintain the same income level, which means your total operating income will be the same, right? So will be the same. So your total operating income now is 90 times 120,000 units. So this is your total profit. So how much is your each one? So you have to use this to divide by your new total units. Your old one is 120,000, but you are selling at 10% more. So this is your new unit, right? This is your new unit. Then you will get your each one's, the profit. I should have my numbers here. I'm sorry. Need to get my numbers. That gives you for each unit, your required profit is $81.81. And then your new selling price is $320. Your required profit for each product is $81.81. So you should be able to get your target cost is $320 minus $81.81 gives you $238.18, which is the answer B. So this is one of the one of the very typical question for market-based approach. We do question 8 one more time to have an idea. So the question said, what's the target cost, right? And then if you have the new selling price, so before your total, your selling price, like let's say before and now, before your selling price is 60 and our cost, if you add all them, is 48. So that gives us the profit for each one is $12. And we used to sell 200 units, right? We used to sell 200 units. So that gives you total profit 2,400. Now someone said, oh, they are selling at 55, so we have to price match. And they said, you want to have the same, you want to have your net income is the same, right? So you want to make sure your net income is still 2,400, but now you are selling 240 units. So each one gives you profit 100. Oh, each one gives you profit $10, what I'm doing. So each one gives you the profit $10. New selling price is 55. Each one, the profit is $10. So your new required cost has to be $45, Or you can do it as the total. I think per unit is better. So you get your per unit selling price. You got your per unit, the required operating income. You got your per unit, the required cost. That per unit selling price, per unit required profit. You got your per unit required cost, right? Or you can just do, the total. Each one is 45, and then your new total unit is this. So your total revenue will be this. Your total operating income is this. And then you get your total cost divided by your total units. Also gives you the required cost for each one is $45. So either one is fine. I personally think it's better actually to use the per unit selling price minus per unit required cost, required profit. Okay, question 9, similar, but it said current full cost. So we have selling price, we have a cost, we have the profit. So your current cost is 700. Target operating income is 80. That gives you selling price 780. And then your selling price will be decreased by 25%. So your new selling price has to be 585. You want to keep the same each unit of the profit 80. So your new cost, right? So your new target cost has to be 505. Okay, so this one said you want to make sure your each unit, the operating income is the same. So per unit is the same. That is easier. You don't need to time the units then divided by the new units. It's just think about per unit. 13-27, I'm not going to talk too much. I used to as students do this one, but I think it's better to focus on the multiple choice. I posted my solution to the Blackboard too. And then question 10 said the best opportunity is definitely before it's locked, right? So it's in the design R&D part. 13-17 talking about value added, non-value added. We said if your cost adds value to your product, that's value added. Like some basic idea, kind of like the labor, the material. They said if the cost doesn't add value, if you eliminate those costs, it will not hurt the usefulness of your product, then that is non-value added. The main idea is if you did something wrong or because it's your fault, like you reworked because you have the delay, your equipment got broken down. So those are the non-value added. And in the reality, we said some costs, they are in the middle, they are the mixed, they can be value added, or the part is value added, part is non-value added. Just to think about it. I said like for the inspection. So if your products, well, are perfect, like if you do inspection, you still cannot find the bad ones, then the inspection will be non-value added because you did extra work, right? But if your products were not that good, if you do inspection, you can find some bad ones from the good ones, then that inspection will be value added because you can find out the bad ones from the good ones. Then that is value added. So it depends on the specific situation. Okay, question 11, talking about the cost plus approach. So basically, you have this cost, you have the plus, that gives you the selling price, right? So make sure this question didn't say it, but I should have said based on the full cost as the base. So you have this manufacturing or marketing, $10 as distribution, and then R&D. So our full cost will be 600 plus 20 plus 10 plus 40. That gives you 670. And then our markup, always know your markup is based on the cost. So your markup is 30% of the 670. That gives you 201. So that is your markup. Your selling price will be 871 because 670 plus this 871. That is your selling price. Question 13, talking about what is the markup percentage. Sorry, I already have the solution here. But basically, the markup percentage is your markup divided by your cost. How do you get your markup? Your markup is the cost minus the profit, right? Actually, is, what I'm talking about. Markup is your selling price minus your profit, minus your cost. That gives you the markup. So your selling price is 500,000, and then we have to find out our cost. So for this one, if you use variable manufacturing cost as the base, so you total manufacturing is 275,000. 20% is fixed, then 80% will be variable. So your cost, variable manufacturing cost is 220,000. Selling price is 500,000, cost is 220,000. That gives you your markup is 280,000. Your selling price minus the cost, and divided by your cost, which gives you 127% as the markup percentage. If you want to double check, you said, oh, my cost is 220,000. My markup percentage is 127%. Then my markup will be 220,000 times 127%. This will give you 280,000. And then your cost is 220,000. So your selling price will be cost and then the markup, which gives you 500,000. So you kind of double check to find out, oh, the number is right. And we do the similar thing for the full cost, all right? Now we think about what should we do if we use full cost as the base. You still have the markup divided by your cost, but now your cost is the full cost, which is your manufacturing plus your non-manufacturing, gives you 400,000. And then your markup now is your selling price minus your cost. So now your currently the markup is $100,000. Markup divided by the cost gives you your markup percentage. So we said we want to double check. Cost now is the full cost 400,000. Markup percentage is 25%. So we use 400,000 times 25% gives you 100,000 as the markup dollar, and our cost is 400,000. So your selling price will be 500,000. Right? So we reach our 500,000. You need to know how do you get markup percentage. You know how do you convert each other. But what I want to show you here is we said if your cost base is small, if you use the small number variable manufacturing cost as the base, then you have to have a big absolute number of your markup dollar and also a big markup percentage. But if your cost base is big, then you just need to have a smaller amount as the markup and also as the markup percentage. Okay, so since we are already talking about this, I want to go to the multiple choice of the last one with you. We said which one is correct. They said if you use variable manufacturing cost as the base, then your markup will be high, right? So if you use the full cost, then markup will be low, And then you can use manufacturing cost as the base, but in the reality, most people, they use the full cost as the base because easier to calculate, more stable, and then it also reflects your full cost. The next one said, which one, if you use, markup will be the highest. So if you want to have a high markup or high markup percentage, your base has to be small. So we have to use the smallest base to get a higher markup percentage or higher markup dollar. But if the question said, hey, when will you have the smallest markup percentage or smallest markup, then you have to have a big base, which normally is the full cost. And then lastly, I have to show the work on how do you get the numbers, right? How do you get the numbers? For this one, we said your full cost is 495, and then you have long-term assets, you have short-term assets. So your total assets, which is also our investment, is 475,000 plus 400,000 gives 875,000. And our investment return is 12%. So your total profit has to be 875,000 times your 12%, which gives you 105,000. We total units is 1,000 units. So that means 105 has to be earned for each of our profit. So this is our profit, this is our markup, this is the plus for each unit. Our cost is 495, our plus, our markup, our profit is 105, so our selling price will be $600. And our markup percentage will be our markup divided by the cost. Our markup is 105, our cost is 495. That gives us our markup percentage is 21.21%. Okay, so if you use this one, oh, you said cost is 495, markup percentage is 21.21. So 495 times 21.21%, that should give you the markup dollar amount, which is the same as 105. Markup divided your cost gives you markup percentage. Cost times your markup percentage gives you the markup dollar amount. And cost plus your markup dollar amount gives you the selling price. I hope you are not confused by my Chinglish. As long as you get the concept, it's really easy. Just to be more careful when you do the calculation. I'm not going to talk about this problem. It's similar, and then I posted my solution to the Blackboard. Also, I said for the multiple choice, where did I put? I give you, I said, some are conceptual, some are the calculation, and then we said value engineering. Make sure you know those concepts, and then make sure you know the markup calculation. Let me know if you have any question, and then thank you, and then I'll watch out the videos